the first Mad Max movie released way back in 1979. That's 45 years ago for those of you keeping track. After Beyond Thunderdome saw what many thought to be the end of Max in 1985, we found out that it was simply the end of Gibson's version of Max, as it was announced a fourth film would be coming with Tom Hardy in the titular role. Eventually 2015 rolled around, a simpler time, and brought us Mad Max Fury Road, which absolutely shocked the world. Talks of a sequel, prequel, or spin-off and more began to whirl around in a constant online buzz, but the wasteland ended up falling silent for nearly a decade. Fast forward 9 years and one global pandemic later, and we finally have our prequel in Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, which saw series director George Miller returning for potentially his last ride in the desert. Though a small portion of internet dwellers are kicking up a stink over a Max-less movie, many have said that Furiosa matches Fury Road in every conceivable way, while some have even gone as far as suggesting that elements of Furiosa are even better. And that, my dear friends, is the topic of today's video: Furiosa or Fury Road. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today, I have a brand new Versus video for you all, and it is going to be Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga versus Mad Max Fury Road. For those of you unfamiliar with how I conduct these types of videos, it's really quite simple. I will be comparing these two movies across 9 rounds to determine just one winner. Each round is time-stamped, so if some categories interest you more than others, feel free to skip around. Before I hop into the actual showdown itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my Versus videos. There are plenty in there for you to enjoy, from movies versus movies, characters versus characters, or franchises versus franchises, and even more. So if Versus videos are your thing, then be sure to check that out, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. For round 1, we are going to be looking at the plots. As I always like to reiterate, this first round focuses on the base plot only, the story at its most surface level. The origin story of renegade warrior Furiosa before her encounter with Max Rokitansky. As a young girl, Furiosa is snatched from the green place of many mothers and falls into the hands of the biker horde, led by the warlord Dementis. The movie then follows Furiosa over the next 15 years as she must fight to survive in the wasteland and find her way back home. The story of Mad Max Fury Road, the 4th entry and probably soft reboot, takes place once again in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, where we follow a woman, Furiosa, who rebels against a tyrannical ruler by the name of Immortan Joe in search of her homeland. She takes with her the warlord's 5 prized breeders, a reluctant stowaway, and a mysterious drifter named Max. Fury Road's plot is super simple. Some might even say a little generic. It's the rebels versus the bad guys, when you boil it all down. Though Furiosa is a prequel, and some would just leave it at that, it's so much more. I wondered in the build-up to the release, why did they call it a Mad Max Saga? You know why? Because it truly is an epic saga that takes place over the course of 15 years that not only chronicles the life of Furiosa herself, but the 40-day Wasteland War. This first round is going to go to Furiosa. This second round is going to focus on storytelling. Again, this round is where we will look more into the movie's pacing, major story beats, and resolution. Now I know most, if not all, will call me crazy, but I actually didn't mind Furiosa's pacing at all. In fact, it wasn't really an issue for me whatsoever, outside of the third act feeling a little rushed, somehow. Yes, I said rushed. Allow me to explain briefly. The parts I felt were rushed were Furiosa losing her arm, getting her mechanical one, and cutting her hair, and the complete glossing over of the 40-day Wasteland War. Outside of that though, I thought this movie was marvelously paced. We got plenty of time with young Furiosa, plenty of time to establish relationships, locations, the political divides of the wasteland, and then of course wonderful action set pieces sprinkled all throughout. While I loved the movie's ending and how it tied perfectly back into Fury Road, I do still wish we had a bit more in that back third that closed the gap a little better between Anya's version of the character and Charlize's. Fury Road, on the other hand, features some of the most breakneck pacing I have ever experienced. There is virtually no build-up. Max gets captured, and then we get the title card before almost immediately transitioning to Furiosa going rogue. There is so little downtime, but when there is, it's used so damn effectively. Some of the most beautiful moments in any action flick ever. But let's also not stray from the fact that the movie finds clever ways to always give you all you need to know about the world, its history, the relationships between characters, and so on. Let's also not forget that this movie's resolution is fan-freaking-tastic. Those final shots live in my head absolutely rent-free all the time. Max and Furiosa with the subtle nods and that bellowing music from Junkie XL, cinema. Even though I love Furiosa's story and am one of the few who actually could have used more of the movie, it's that last little bit of rushing that irked me ever so slightly. Whereas Fury Road is just one 2-hour-long chase sequence with little breaks that also manages to squeak in appropriate world building, character arcs, flawless action set pieces, and a satisfying conclusion. This round has absolutely got to go to Fury Road. In this third round, we are going to be looking at the lead characters. And so this round is pretty self-explanatory, outside of the fact that some people may have differing opinions on which characters are leads and which are supporting. For this video, these are the leads that I have chosen. For Furiosa, I have decided to go with Furiosa, both versions of course, same character but different actresses, which I feel is worth noting because Lila Brown, who portrays the younger version, is getting nowhere near enough love for her work. And the other leads are Chris Hemsworth's Dementis and Tom Burke as Praetorian Jack. Furiosa is just straight up one of the greatest female leads to ever be created. That goes for all three portrayals of the character. Young Furiosa was a badass, and the Furiosa we see growing up, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, is just as cool as Anya gives a powerhouse performance. Such a nuanced character with so many layers to dissect while also being a kick-ass action hero. Hemsworth was unhinged in all the best ways as Dementis, might literally be my favorite performance of his, and that's saying something as I am a massive Marvel fan. And I think Tom Burke was a solid addition too. The chemistry the actors had was wonderful, and the connection between the characters was exactly what this movie needed. The Fury Road leads would of course be Max, and then we have Furiosa, Nux, the Five Wives, and Immortan Joe. Though so many people shit on Tom Hardy's grunt-heavy, little-to-no Australian accent-having performance, this most recent rewatch just further solidified for me that I don't mind it at all. Sure, it's light on the dialogue, but the subtle facial expressions, the gestures, and most importantly, the understanding developed between his character and Furiosa. Speaking of her, she's the star of the show anyway, no doubt about it. The title may be Mad Max, but these just as easily could have been titled Furiosa 1 and Furiosa 2. Charlize gives an all-time performance. The badass moments, the emotional moments, the softer moments, she pulls it all off with ease, and it is a wonder to behold. Much of that can also be applied to Nicholas Holt's portrayal of Nux, a war boy who eats up every single word that Immortan Joe says, worships him like a god before revealing his heart of gold and making us all fall in love with him. The wives are fine, some of them have a bit more flair than others, but for the most part, I feel like anyone could have played any of them. Immortan Joe, on top of looking like an absolute beast, is one of my favorite villains of the 2010s, perhaps even the last 2 or 3 decades. Furiosa put up a good fight, no doubt about it, but Fury Road managed to give us unforgettable lead characters while delivering non-stop action. So this round is going to have to go to Fury Road. This third round is going to focus on the supporting characters. Same thing goes for this round too. Not everyone is going to agree with who ends up as a supporting character here, but this is the way that I have laid them out. For Furiosa, the ones I've gone with are Immortan Joe, Rictus Erectus, Scrotus, the People Eater, Mary Jabasa, the Bullet Farmer, and the Octoboss. I liked the subtle differences with the younger Immortan Joe. Rictus gets a bit more screen time, which made me like him a lot more actually, and Scrotus was a great addition. Kick-ass makeup effects, and it was cool seeing Josh Hellman, who played Slit in Fury Road, reused here. The People Eater was adequately creepy, Mary Jabasa was a one-woman wrecking machine who everybody on the internet has fallen head over heels for, and the younger version of the Bullet Farmer showed up, and the Octoboss had a freaking sweet outfit and motorcycle, but never really did much. When it comes to Fury Road, you might notice a little bit of overlap because I am going to go with Rictus Erectus, the Bullet Farmer, the People Eater, Slit, the Volvani, and the Organic Mechanic. Rictus is fine in this one. He's a big, muscly dum-dum with a few fun moments. The Bullet Farmer gets to be a little more unhinged in this original appearance, but doesn't get a satisfying end. The People Eater gets less screen time, but is arguably even more despicable, plus he does get a satisfying end. Slit pops in and out like a major thorn in the side of our heroes. The Volvani, or what's left of them anyway, help our heroes on the last leg of their journey, and the Organic Mechanic just kinda grosses me out. Exactly like he's supposed to. This one wasn't as close for me. I think Furiosa pretty easily clears here. Though Fury Road has some fun side characters, they don't come close to the variety and importance of those found in Furiosa. For round 5, we are going to be looking at the aesthetic, direction, and style. In this round, I will be looking at a mix of each movie's overall aesthetic, meaning costumes, makeup, set design, and so on, the influence from the director, and the style of it, which is of course the most subjective aspect of this round, because style can have many meanings. Alright, Furiosa up to bat first, and it is essentially the same as Fury Road, just more. I say more because we actually get to see inside of Gastown and the Bullet Farm this time. We get to see the green place that gets talked about so much in its prime, we get to see more of the other armies in the wasteland, and not just primarily the war boys from the Citadel. More villains, more side characters, just more. But then of course you have the OG, Fury Road. This one was truly one of a kind for its time. The movie is colorful, the costumes are wild and zany, the makeup and prosthetic work is second to none, and then you have a menacing villain with an iconic look. Now, notice how I didn't say much in terms of the director's influence and style. That's because they are identical in every way. George Miller directed both, and it feels that way, like it should. They drew out the same emotions in me, the action, coloring, and so on are all styled the same way, and that's not a knock though. They are supposed to feel the same. One is a prequel slash spin-off to the other. That being said, and I am sure some people will kick up a fuss about this one, Furiosa just gives us more of what we already loved. Immortan Joe, the Bullet Farmer, People Eater, War Boys, many different types of vehicles, all of the same, but just more. More locations, more vehicles, more makeup, more everything, and I can simply never get enough of this mad world. So I will be giving this round to Furiosa. This 6th round is going to focus on cinematography, editing, and visuals. And it doesn't really need an introduction because of that. We're looking at cinematography, editing, and visuals. Once again, Furiosa gives us a lot more to look at. We explore more of the desert, visit more locations, and have arguably even bigger set pieces than that of Fury Road. They both boast the same style of exceptional cinematography, this time from director Simon Duggan, but unfortunately Furiosa at times suffers from some pretty ugly visuals. To be more specific, there are way more instances in here where the green screen is very obvious and not super well done, as well as moments that were full CGI or largely CGI that were kinda off-putting to look at too, which to me is pretty inexcusable given the massive budget for this movie. I'm just going to be blunt with you all here. John Seal delivered us some truly flawless cinematography throughout this movie's entire 120-minute runtime. It is marvelously edited so you don't miss a thing, while also getting some genuinely breathtaking shots, be it of action, of the sprawling desert landscape, and showcases some barely there visuals. They use very little CGI in general. I think Miller estimated that to be around 80% of the movie is completely practical. And when there is CGI present, it's hardly noticeable at all. Again, cinematography and editing for both are undeniably top tier. But when it comes to comparing the visuals, it's no contest. There might be one or two instances in Fury Road where it looks a little rough, but there are a few too many moments in Furiosa that really just kind of sucked me out of the otherwise epic time. So this round is going to go to Fury Road. In this 7th round, we are going to be looking at comparing and contrasting the music and sound. So we'll be briefly touching on each movie's sound editing, sound mixing, and score/soundtrack. To be frank though, Furiosa is almost identical once again to Fury Road, and in almost every single way, but once again, still not a bad thing. Immaculate sound design from the explosions to weapons, the sound mixing is expertly handled as well, where none of the dialogue gets lost, and you get some crazy cool shots with various sounds coming at you from every side, flowing together seamlessly, and the soundtrack from Tom Holkenborg, aka Junkie XL, is magnificent. I have been listening to a playlist that features only songs from Fury Road and Furiosa since I saw Furiosa. His work here is some of my favorite. However, I feel like I've got to give Fury Road additional points for simply doing it first. Like I just said, I love both soundtracks, but they're pretty indistinguishable. When I listen to them together, I can hardly ever tell which is from which movie. It just sounds like one extended album. An absolute banger of an album though. And again, with the sound design and mixing, it's impeccable. Honestly, straight masterful in both. From the roar of the engines to the massive explosions, clever use of music, whether you're watching it at home or in a theater, it just rarely gets better than this. Once again though, I have to give credit where credit is due. Fury Road did it first, not necessarily better all the time, but first. So this round is going to go to Fury Road. In this 8th round, we are going to be looking at the action in both movies. Now, before I really get into this round, I do have to say that Furiosa still does a phenomenal job and genuinely gives Fury Road a run for its money. In fact, some of the action set pieces are even bigger than in Fury Road. But as I've already discussed, it's the visuals that often hold it back. Sometimes a section of glaring green screen or wonky CGI can really just take you out of something that you were otherwise completely enthralled in. I know it sounds like I might be ragging on Furiosa a little bit, and I am genuinely not. I think 95% of it is terrific, but when comparing it to Fury Road, I've got to split hairs. There is gonna be some things that are gonna get nitpicky. And that's because not only does Fury Road deliver some of the best action ever put to the screen, but it's all in camera and largely practical. Real cars, real explosions, plenty of stunt performers putting their lives on the line for our entertainment, fuel-injected chaos from start to finish. Epic sweeping wide shots, guys flying around on poles, motorcycles, guns, arrows, saws. Fury Road has got it all. You really just can't beat that. Let's not forget about that final chase either. Well, I guess the whole movie is basically a prolonged chase sequence, but the last section of the movie, I would argue, is the greatest action sequence of all time. If you couldn't already tell for whatever reason, I am head over heels completely in love with both of these movies. And as much as I had an absolute blast with all of the superb action woven throughout Furiosa, I would make the argument that Fury Road is the best action movie ever made. It's probably my favorite, so there's that. And that obviously means that Fury Road is taking this round too. And now for the 9th and final round, we are going to be looking at memorability. As I always say with this round, it can get tricky when comparing older movies to new ones. That's never a guaranteed win though. Some new movies you just know, or maybe it's a sequel that was released pretty close to the original, or maybe a sequel, prequel, spin-off that greatly improves upon what came before. That being said now, I think Furiosa is going to age like a fine wine, in all honesty, completely transparent here. As of right now, it's tied for my own personal favorite movie of 2024, and I would go on record saying it's the perfect companion piece to Fury Road. A prequel that also expands the world and deepens the already detailed lore. It did everything I needed it to, and it was everything I wanted it to be. I will be revisiting it in the future time and time again. However, when bringing Fury Road into any conversation, for me at least, yeah, it's gonna be tough to beat that one. Like I've said, in my eyes and the eyes of many, this is the best action movie ever made. Outside of that, it has, and continues to, review incredibly well, scoring big for both critics and audiences alike, and the movie won 6 damn Oscars. That part remains to be seen for Furiosa, of course, but even disregarding that last part, Fury Road's legacy already feels deeply etched in movie history. I want to close this round out by saying that regardless of whoever takes this round and who the winner is, I can almost guarantee that once I have my Furiosa Steelbook in hand, I will never be able to watch one without immediately watching the other ever again. They were quite literally made for each other and they belong together. But for today, like I said in the beginning, there can only be one winner. So this 9th and final round, and the crown is going to go to, drumroll please, and to nobody's shock, Mad Max Fury Road. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below if you agree or disagree with my winner. While you're at it, don't forget to let me know who you would have chosen to win each round and who your overall winner would have been. As a reminder, this right here that you're watching, this is the revamped BAMTube Movies, and it is your one-stop for everything movies. Be it versus videos like this one, video essays, top 10s, ranking videos, tier list videos, I have it all and so much more, along with your daily nerdy news wrap-ups that cover every bit of news in the world of gaming, TV, and of course, movies. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that little bell icon so you don't miss a thing. Also, once again, folks, I launched news coverage accounts on all social media platforms. Links are in the description, so please be sure to give them a follow. As always, folks, I thank you all so very much for watching. Stay happy, healthy, and safe out there. From myself and the rest of the BAMTube team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time, and that's a wrap.